Hi and welcome to tonight's Facebook Live on how to communicate our message, which almost didn't occur because I couldn't find out on the new Facebook page that they've given me where the live button was to begin the communication. So how appropriate is that on an evening when we're talking about how to communicate, I struggled to find a way to set the communication going. I think it's quite hilarious. But how often is that what happens when we're trying to communicate to someone? Something crops up and it gets tricky. So we have so far, we've got Tracy, Orla, Pia, Jackie, Glynis, Anita. So there's quite a few of you that are watching me fumble at the beginning of a message on communication. Hi, Caroline. So it seems to be a topic that a few people are interested in. Hi, Fionnuala, because I've had quite a few questions either emailed to me or posted on the Facebook page. So now we've got Maria and Karen. Obviously a topic of interest to some people, and I think in this day and age communication's a major topic of interest and a major area where there's communication breakdown, where misunderstandings are very easy. Let me talk first about what I meant when I said how to communicate our message. Although I'm talking from a spiritual perspective, because for me everything's spiritual, it's not just in areas where we work spiritually. The problems we find facing us in our world mostly stem from miscommunication or no communication. We assume other people know what we're thinking, what we're meaning. Hi, Marianne. We assume that people understand who we are. And so we don't need to go into any great detail. And that's a strong assumption that often leads us astray. So let's start with some of the questions that I've been asked. And one of them was, what did I mean when I said how to communicate my message? How do you communicate your message? We all have a message. We may not be aware of it. We may not be clear that we have a message, but we all have a message. And that's the first question. What is it? What do we mean by it? What is it? That's two parts. When I talk about people's message, I talk about what is it at the core of them that if they never say anything else to other people, they want people to remember them for. So what I'm saying here is, what is it that at the heart of you is the most important for you, that you stand for and that people understand? Julie's just said the medium of communication is less direct, so open to interpretation. Yes, that's very true, Julie. But the point is, if we're not clear within ourselves, how can we expect other people to understand what we have to say? Hi, Sarupa. So before we can actually be communicating our message, we really need to know what our message is. What is it at our heart that's the most important thing for us to feel that we've communicated with those around us? And that leads on to the second question, which was, does everyone have a message to share? And if they don't, might they just be part of someone else's message? So everyone does have a message to share. There's always something that is ours, that's our piece of the truth. And that's my message. My message is and always has been about what I see as the truth of being in integrity in what you do, in what you say, in how you speak, in how you share. I may voice that message in a variety of ways, which is another question that I'll come to shortly. But for me, that's the most important. It's how we stand in our truth and how authentic we are in doing so. So we all have something that's really important to us that we may find ourselves talking about to a variety of different people at different times in our lives. And we may forget about it for a while and it will come up again. That's our message. That's what's important to us. Is everyone part of someone else's message? Everyone who is hearing that message is part of it because that message is for them, else they wouldn't be part of that conversation. They wouldn't be hearing that message. Messages are points of opportunities for points of connection. So whatever your message is at the heart of your being, that's an opportunity for you to make a connection to other people, to work with them, to share with them, to laugh with them, to play with them, and sometimes to fight with them. Because let's face it, our messages aren't always well received, even though we might intend for them to be well delivered. So what if somebody doesn't believe they have a message? And these questions have been presented by Bronwyn, although Sarupa did ask the one about, is anyone part of being someone else's message? And she also asked, does everyone have a message, as Bronwyn did? So you can see how there's this energy floating around at the back of people's minds. If someone doesn't believe they have a message, does their message not get spoken? No, they just don't know that they're doing it. If we have something, and we all do, that we really believe is important, then we're going to talk about it. Events will occur where we'll be involved with it and other people will see this. So our message is delivered whether we consciously know we have it, whether we consciously tell people we have it or not. Because it's part of who we are and why we came here. We all have a message, and so does everybody around us. So it's really important that we're prepared to listen to other people and not assume that our message is the most important and everybody has to listen to us. If you're not prepared to listen to other people, why would they listen to you? Sharing our message, and I'll slip here to something that Sonia actually asked about being unconditional. Sharing our message is about sharing a piece of who we are. If we make that conditional, if we imply that our message is more important than someone else's, and that's a condition, we're not sharing our message, we're sharing our ego. Hi Juliet, hi Elizabeth and Anouk, thank you for joining us. So for me, whether someone believes they have a message or not, everyone has a point to share, a point of communication to share. So the next question was, how do I know what my message is or discover what it is? Well, I think I've already touched on that. For all of us, there's something that's really important to us, really significant, that we share sometimes in spite of ourselves, not because we want to share a message. It's just there. It's a theme that we keep referring to. And perhaps if we substitute the word theme for message, that might help some people start to see that the theme throughout their life has been one topic or another. If you can understand what the theme of your life has been to date, no judgment, no criticism, just however it's presented itself, this has been your theme, then you know that that's connected to your message. That's how you discover it. What's your theme? Go into your heart, connect to your heart, and ask, what's my message or what's my theme? And just see what comes up for you. Allow that energy to come out, for you to begin to explore it perhaps more fully than you might be doing already. So, is the best way to communicate my message via social media, writing articles, or maybe a book? Orla asked this question, and it goes with the second one. does how we communicate depend on the gifts we have to share? They're questions that people often ask me. Well, what about social media? Perhaps I should write a book. Perhaps I should do this. Perhaps I should do that. Or could, or might, or would, or ought. When we connect to our heart, when we hear what our message is, it may simply be that we live it. The more we live it, the more we are the message, because that's the truth of the matter. Our message is really us sharing who we are. The more people see who we are and what we're here to share, more importantly, our intuition then guides us to how we can do that. Some people will need to go to a big hall, 10,000 people attend, and they'll stand up and they'll talk for an hour and they'll share their message. That's part of their journey. That's how they share. For someone else, it could be in one-to-one conversations. It doesn't depend on the gifts you have to share. We all have gifts, and all of our gifts will help us with our message or our theme. What it depends on is what we chose for our life path before we incarnated. What our divine plan is, our piece of it is, determines how we share that message. Because if that's what we've set up, we'll share that message in spite of ourselves. We may not know that we're doing it, other people will reflect it back to us. And so we know that we're actually aligned in that way. So the gifts we have are our gifts, and they assist in our message, in our theme, in our journey. There are no conditions. Anita said, do we also share our message by being ourselves authentically? I think that's what I'm actually saying, Anita, that we share our message by being who we are. And if we're being who we are authentic. If we're being who we think we should be, we're not. And that ties into a question that Jacqueline asked, which was, do we have to adapt the way we communicate depending on the audience? For example, if we're speaking to certain people in certain jobs, my feeling is, and always has been, that it's not about who those people are and who their jobs are, what their jobs are. It's about who we are being, and are we being authentic? For example, if I was invited to meet a very well-known person, would I behave differently? Would I speak to them differently than the way I'm speaking now? No. Because if I do, they're going to sense that I'm not being me. You can sense it in people. When people talk to you out of authenticity, we all sense it, we all know it, and it makes it a difficult conversation. We speak to everyone the same. We speak to them with respect, we speak to them with courtesy, we speak to them with kindness. Their role is irrelevant. Sonia says, in some cases, people just share their messages with the other without asking whether the other person wants to hear. In this case, is saying thank you very much enough? So if someone's sharing their message with you, I think what I'm seeing here is that you're saying, supposing somebody comes up to you and starts rattling on about what it is they want you to know because that's their message, do you listen politely and then say thank you very much? Well, I think you do. Because if they've come to you to share that message, you're part of it. There's a reason why that message is being delivered to you. So you pay them the courtesy of listening in just the same way as you would like them to listen to you. And when they're finished, you say thank you very much. And if you're really aligned, you'll ask, why did this message come to me now? Is there a reason for it? Jackie says, thanks, Helen, that she feels the same way. Srupa says, I do think language is significant. Speaking to people in a way that means something to them, agree that it's respect, kindness, and so on. However, speaking to a group of businessmen in mindfulness ones, they needed a different language to those already open. I disagree, Sarupa. I've spoken to lots of different groups. I've spoken to business people. I've spoken to housewives. I've spoken to a wide cross-section, wealthy people and people that aren't quite so wealthy. I don't speak in spiritual lingo. I've always been, as I am now, very clear and very down to earth. So I don't pitch my language. I speak from the heart. And when I speak from the heart, people hear it in the way they need to hear it. Because before I share anything, I always tune in and ask for guidance that the way I deliver my message is for the highest good of those concerned, which means that they will hear what they need to hear. And if they don't hear it, it's either too soon for them or they're not ready. So, no, I will never pitch my language in that situation. Jackie says it boils down to respect too. The heart is all important, and it is. I think I might have missed something there. No, we've already covered that. So, how to communicate from our hearts. Interesting that that's following next and not from our heads. Because when you change your language to communicate to people, you're speaking from your head. That's the easiest way to see it. If when you're giving a talk to people, whether that's formal or informal, you're looking at how you can say it so that it can be the most easily received, you're coming from your head. Hi Andy, nice of you to join us. You're right, it's be who you be. It's the first spiritual truth. Be who you be. When you connect to your heart chakra, you tune in and you ask, the words that you use will be the words that they need to hear. Because, and this is the biggest distinction that I'd like to make important, your message is about who you are at your highest level. It's not about your personality. It's not about your ego. It's your higher self speaking through you into your world. If you don't come from the heart, if you come from the head, your higher self can't do that. So, if you communicate repeatedly from the head, Sarupa wants to know, how do you change that habit to align emotionally, mentally and spiritually? You sit and you tune in and you ask. Those of you who have worked with me over a period of time know by now that there's a 3-letter word I use all the time. Ask. Don't ask your friend, don't ask your boss, don't ask your partner, don't ask your kids. You sit and you ask your intuition and your higher self. And if you're willing to allow that, you will then allow yourself to let the words flow without you controlling to make sure that what you're delivering is appropriate. Your message isn't about being appropriate, but it is about being authentic, and that's the heart. Is there a golden rule to follow to communicate our message? I'm going to repeat what Andy said, be who you be. When you allow yourself to be who you be, actually the first 3 of the 7 spiritual truths cover this. Be who you be, accept all that is, and live in harmlessness. There's an old saying, if you can't say something kind, say nothing. If you're about to communicate something and there's no kindness and there's no respect, that is not part of your message. People have said to me at various times, I tuned in and I was told I had to tell this person to do this, that and something else because they weren't doing this, that and something else. Spirit doesn't work that way. Our higher selves don't work that way. Our ego does, our personality does. So the golden rule is tune in and ask, first, last and always. And if you can't remember to do that, remember to be kind. Remember to speak as you would wish to be spoken to, so that people feel connected, so that people feel that openness, and they'll step forward to meet you halfway. I've already talked about what being unconditional means. It means that you don't place any condition on what you're sharing from the perspective of it has to be this or it has to be that. I can only say this, they can only do that. There is no condition. So if there's any other question that anybody's got that I haven't answered, I'm quite happy to answer it now. I hope in this conversation, this Facebook Live, not a conversation really, that you have been able to find something in it that clarifies things, gives you some further food for thought. If there's anything else, I'm quite happy to wait for a couple of minutes while your fingers do the typing. If you feel this is a topic that you want to discuss in more detail, then I'm happy to do that also. So I'm just going to sit here and twiddle my thumbs for a couple of minutes until I know if everybody's happy with it or if people would like to leave. Thanks, Jackie. You've got the clarity. Juliet, thank you. You didn't need to apologise for coming in late. That was great that you turned up. Karen is saying, is coming through ego versus being who you be, can it be identified via emotional and power play? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're coming through your ego, you will share your message based on emotion and or criticism, judgment. So yes, it becomes a power play. I've even had a situation where I watched two people talking to each other, listened to two people talking to each other, and each of them was saying to the other, my intuition tells me this, and the other one would say, yes, but my intuition tells me that. And each was going at it without listening to the other. They weren't sharing a message. They were trying to convert. Each was trying to convert the other to their point of view. That's not communicating your message. And that is certainly coming through the emotional body or through a power play. Anita, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the topic. Thanks, Tracy. So, oh, hi, Myrna. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you love to hear this. That's really good. Well, it doesn't look as though there are any more questions or comments, although if you've got comments, pop them on the Facebook Live when it's posted and I'll come back to you. Hi, Vicky. Nice to have you join us. Oh, Haresh has got a final one. Does how we communicate with ourselves very much on how we communicate with others? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. If you're critical of yourself, you'll be critical of other people. Orla says, thanks, very helpful and clear. And Fanula, tailoring delivery makes assumptions about others. Thank you, Fanula. I quite agree with you. I found myself being selective, not to judge them, but out of ego concern of what others think. That's very true. So therefore, it's not about your message, it's about you, as you say. Okay. Myrna says, thank you for your presence. It gives inspiration. Thank you. Nice to have you join us. I will be back in a month, so look out for the post that lets you know that we're about to do another one in a month's time and what the topic is. And if you've got any questions, please send them to me or post them on the Facebook page and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much for joining. Good night.